Welcome back to the Charity Matters podcast. I'm Heidi Johnson, lifelong helper, nonprofit founder, and your host. I've been interviewing the helpers for a decade with my blog, and I'm so excited to now be sharing these inspiring conversations on our podcast. Join me as we learn the challenges and stories of innovators, entrepreneurs, and modern-day heroes who set out to solve the problems of humanity. Today, I'm talking to Lori Barr, the co-founder of the nonprofit Raise the Bar, that she founded with her son, Anthony Barr, Minnesota Vikings outside linebacker. Join us to learn about Lori's incredible journey as a single parent and learn about the beautiful work she and Anthony are doing to raise the bar for single parents and children through education. It's a conversation you're not going to want to miss. Welcome, Lori. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to have an opportunity to talk about Raise the Bar and all the amazing work that we're doing.
You guys are such an inspiration. Now, I have to say, I know Anthony a little bit because we were both moms at the same high school. My son was a freshman when your son was a senior, and my son was a quarterback.
Okay.
But your son was kind of the high school hero. And everyone looked up to Anthony, and Anthony would come back a lot to the high school and see all the younger players and just was always a bright light and such an inspiration. So first and foremost, like, bravo for raising an amazing human being, because that's like number one job that we have in this world. So well done for that. So tell me about what Raise the Bar does, about your work and what you do.
Sure. So Raise the Bar's mission is to increase opportunity and economic mobility for single parent students and their children through education. And so what that looks like is providing holistic resources and supports to low-income single parent students who are in pursuit of a post-secondary degree, training, certification, with the end goal of securing a career that offers a family-sustaining wage. We know that education is one pathway out of poverty. And so that's the road that we've taken because it was inspired by our own experiences.
So talk to me about that. I mean, you don't wake up and say you're going to start a nonprofit. So what was the impetus to all of this? Because there's a path that we go on to start these journeys. There's a number of things that happen that trigger this. So share what that was and how you got here.
Right. So, it's kind of a combination of a whole lot of things and an intersection of all these life experiences that brought us to this point. But growing up Catholic, we were always taught very, very early on that when the basket passed, that we put a little something from our own, piggy bank into, the collection plate. And so that was the very early experience of, being helpful, helping your neighbor and paying attention to, the experiences of others.
Right.
And so, then all this stuff happens through life. I end up getting pregnant at the age of 19. I was going into my junior year at St. Mary's College in South Bend, Indiana. And I kind of had to reprioritize my life and figure out, how I was going to take care of myself and my small child. And so those experiences kind of fueled the vision for Raise the Bar. And it really kind of crystallized in our minds after our very first youth football camp that was held at Loyola High School. So right after Anthony was able to kind of reach the pinnacle of his football career in 2014 when he was, drafted in the, top 10 of the NFL draft.
Right.
We held a youth football camp. Just free to local, the local community, come out, get to meet Anthony. He was kind of a, local star. And, just have a
For
fun.
sure, he was a local star. Right.
Bring all these people together. Anyways, it was an amazing day. We had over 300 kids, over 150 volunteers. It was all of these people coming together. And after that experience, he and I kind of sat down. We were like, wouldn't it be cool if we could harness this energy and this enthusiasm with your platform to really do something big and have a big impact on families like ours? And that's where Raise the Bar was born. It really, started with our own story and experiences. And what we thought was, let's just start a scholarship fund for single moms like me.
Right.
Who are trying to do something to support their family. They're on a pathway towards supporting their family. But they need, maybe they need a little support. And we thought that support looked like a scholarship. And though that is still part of our overall programming, that isn't even the tip of the iceberg of what single parents need in order to persist through post-secondary. It's just one part of it.
Well, it's so much. But so as you were like unpacking this and trying to you have this event in 2014, you launched Raise the Bar in 2016. As you're unpacking this, I mean, how are you figuring out? Because I think we start with these okay, we're going to do something, but then you start whittling it down because the need is always greater than we can meet. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the most frustrating thing about people that want to set out to help, is that we want to help as many people as we can. And then we start realizing what's the best way to help them. So as you started with scholarship, how did you start whittling it down? I mean, when did you start to filter this? And then did you say, okay, now we're ready to go? Now we know we have a plan and we're going to go.
Right. So, it really came down to being a student. And putting ourselves in a position to learn and listen instead of immediately lead. It was kind of all of these things happening at one time, but we knew that there were things we didn't know. And we had to really do research, do our due diligence to find what's worked before this, where the need exists. And then really in the spirit of true teamwork is surrounding ourselves with folks who we could partner with, we could collaborate with and pool resources because we were limited with our capacity. And so doing all of those things at once before we really went into all of the direct service. So while we were learning and all that, we were still distributing scholarships. But at that time, it was just a scholarship. That has grown so much in 5 years. Now it's so much greater.
Wow. So doing this work is never easy. I don't think anyone intentionally gets into it. It kind of happens to us. Our paths unfold and we find ourselves in this position that we're serving other people. But people don't realize how hard it is. It's really hard work. It's really hard work. So what are some of the challenges that you've kind of encountered on this journey?
Right. So it is hard work. And I think that recognizing what your limitations are is humbling, and also, it puts you in a place to realize okay, we need to kind of stay in our lane and, do this in a very strategic, thoughtful way. And so when you're doing that, for us, it was recognizing, number one of our biggest challenges was diverse revenue sources, right? So our biggest funder could not be Anthony. We needed to, for it to be sustainable, we really had to dig into, creating diverse revenue streams. That's one.
Right.
Number two, I would say would be brand awareness. It really is about folks learning about you and really coming up with a plan of how you're going to market, your product. I mean, though we're not turning a profit, we still offer something. And in order for people to get engaged, you have to start with building a relationship and building trust. And so, that's the brand awareness, trusting who we are. When you see our logo, when you hear tackling poverty, we want you to think about Raise the Bar, but there's so much that goes into getting to that point.
I love that. I was asked to do a talk next week at USC on storytelling and nonprofits at the business school exactly about what you're talking about building the brand, telling the story. Because at the end of the day, we're not selling, an item. We're not selling something we manufacture. We are selling humanity. We are selling and really telling, not selling, the stories of the people that we're impacting, right? Yeah. You're so brilliant in your recognition of how important that is in building a business. I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm just going to get some money, I'm just going to give it away. There's so much more. There's so much more in running a successful nonprofit and a business. People just don't think about it. So it's just fascinating to me. It's fascinating to me. So, I mean, I always say my phrase is kind of the bucket is heavy. There are days where you're still doing your work. You're not, it's like I said, you're not manufacturing something. You have children and families in poverty that are struggling, that are relying on you for something. And that is a burden or a gift that I think regular businesses don't have. And so when we're going to bed at night, we're thinking, oh, I just got to do one more thing, or I can't do this because if I don't do this, so-and-so's not going to go to school. So-and-so's not going to get this extra service that they need. So-and-so is not going to get this. And it's heavy. Sometimes that can be a very heavy feeling. So what keeps you going when the bucket's heavy?
The families we serve, the relationships that we've built, and the belief in our mission, knowing that this works. We are having an impact together. Seeing the results, of our early work, that's what keeps us going. That's what, when I'm laying awake at night thinking of like, oh my God, I need to do blah, 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 or I need money, or I need, it's like, okay, take a breath and remember why we're here. Right. And it is one step at a time. And, we're doing good work. We're doing the work, and keep that in mind every step of the way.
So true. It's so true. So impact, you said I have a love-hate relationship with this word. I really honestly can't stand it, but I can't stand it when it comes to writing grants. I can't stand it, but I appreciate that we all have to have an impact so we can measure our work, so we can be accountable, so we can raise our bar, pun intended. And yet I think when you measure the impact of giving a child an education, that's like an immeasurable thing. So how would you measure your impact, and it can be a story, it can be a child's life you've changed, it can be numbers. What would you think that would be for Raise the Bar? What does the impact look like?
We can throw numbers out there, until, the cows come home, because we do have those data points. And, for some people that resonates with them. Like they want to know, what's your retention rate? How many of your scholars are still in school or who graduated? By the way, it's 99% that are either have earned a degree or have graduated, right? But,
Bravo.
Really, and also just, when we talk about increasing economic mobility. So the annual income on average of an applicant when they come into the Raise the Bar family is about $15,000 annually. And upon leaving and securing a career, the average is $64,000 a year. So there's a huge increase, right? They can now support themselves and their family, and they're moving towards true prosperity. And so, we have all those data points, but for us, it's really about the stories. It's about where are they now? And, when I have, a scholar, for example, I'll just, share a real quick story of Tavia. And she is a Native American single mom, grew up in poverty, all of the kind of the stereotypical experiences that one might, think about go along with poverty. Father in prison, mother struggling to just, make ends meet. She never thought college was not in her plan, right? It wasn't for her, it wasn't on her path, in her pathway. She became a mom at a young age. And, just kind of figured like me, I better do something. I better get into school and figure something out. Went through community college, ended up transferring to university. She is now being invited by the American Indian Science and Engineers Council to speak and present at their conference. She is a chemist. She is earning her degree this December, and she's really focused on creating sustainable water sources for low-income communities. Her son is a fourth grader. He's achieving above grade level, 3 grades above with reading and math. Those are our success stories. That's the impact that we're having. So you can see just in a short period of time, the impact that the Raise the Bar scholarship has had on her life. And she will be very quick to say, but for the scholarship, I would not have been able to complete my degree because I was already working and going to school and raising my son on my own, and something was going to have to give. And in that equation, the thing that was going to drop was going to be school.
Right.
So there's so many more stories like Tavia's that we have that we really celebrate, because these are lives that are changed, and that we can be a little part of that change and creating hope and opportunity. To me, that's huge success.
Well, and I think, I always say we have a front row seat to it, and that we get to see the best in people. And sometimes we see not always the greatest things, but we have an opportunity to see generosity, and we have an opportunity to see grace, and we have an opportunity to see resilience, and we have an opportunity to see what we would define as success. Someone who is happy and thriving and has a happy child and is doing well in their career and their life. I mean, it's a privilege to be able to walk with people that we serve. I mean, it's the greatest gift, right?
Absolutely.
No one gets in a nonprofit to make money. That's just really not the way it works. Those are our paydays. Like, those are, to me, that's the bonus that we get, is when we see someone like Tavia, be successful and thriving. Like, it just doesn't get better than that. Knowing that in the tiniest way, God or whatever you believe in put you in a place to be a small cog in a very big wheel, and to know that you were just a little piece of that wheel is the best gift. It's the greatest gift.
100%. Said it perfectly.
Yeah. That to me is like, that's it. So if you could dream any dream for Raise the Bar, what does that look like?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think mine would be so similar to so many other, small nonprofits out there, that we had all the resources that we needed to do the work that we do. It's funny, because when I sit down with our team, they'll say, in your dream world, what would this look like? And it would look like us being able to, really provide the resources needed to single parent students everywhere so they could succeed. That might look like something practical, like, an endowed scholarship. That also might look like having strong partnerships with post-secondary partners. Maybe there's a university who says, we're in this with you, and we will increase our number. We'll start counting our single parent students who are enrolled, so we understand what we need to do on our end to support them. Because right now they are an invisible population. Nobody's counting them, so that would be a dream of ours, is start collecting that information so you can be informed.
Right.
So, there's little things like that, which, I think would help us continue this work and really have an impact and really start to crack generational poverty.
But you're still a baby. I mean, 2016, you're still a baby. I mean, you're 7, 6. I mean, you're a first grader. you're right. Maybe you're a second grader, but
yes, we are.
Right. So that's okay. I mean, you think about the Red Cross and the Girl Scouts, they've been around for 100 years. You're in your infancy, and look what you're already doing. I mean, it's remarkable. It's fantastic. And I think you're only going. So exciting. So do you kind of have a motto or a phrase, I mean, that you live by? I think about, you obviously had adversity in your own life, being a single mom, going through this and, walking the walk. You have lived what you preach. Just like I am a nonprofit founder and I interview nonprofit founders, like we walk the walk. So we understand the people that we're talking to. And you, obviously with single moms you work with, you're like, I was you. I get this. Mm-hmm. So I have to think, like, when times are tough, or when you're a single mom and you're trying to figure out, how you're going to your job, finish your school, get the laundry done, do everything you got to do. What was the motto or phrase or something that you that pulled you through?
Really, it was just don't be a prisoner to your own limitations. I think we all create a scenario for ourselves, especially when, you find yourself maybe struggling or you feel like you've made some bad decisions, and you carry kind of that self, judgment around and feel like, well, I've messed up, or I haven't followed the straight and narrow path. And so I should just accept what's here in front of me. Don't. Right. Don't limit yourself to what's possible, what you think is possible, because there's dream big, the same dreams that we have for our children, because as a single parent, you do want your child to do better than you, to have more than you, to experience everything there is to experience in life. But oftentimes we don't give ourselves that same grace. We limit ourselves with what's possible. So I would say dream 100%. Big, think big, do big, because you can.
I love that. Amen. Amen to that. I could not agree more. And when I started Spiritual Care, the nonprofit that I founded in 2002, my team gave me a bracelet that says Dream Big that I wear all the time. I don't have it on right now, but it is because you never know. Like, you have to just be open to and not put a ceiling on it, because life takes us on these crazy, wonderful, wild rides. And I love your idea of not creating a prison, because there is no ceiling unless you make one. Oh, Lori, I love that. I love that. You are speaking my language. So there's so many life lessons that we learn through service. There's so many life lessons we learn through our challenges, through the obstacles we overcome in life. But from the time that you and Anthony started this, what life lessons have you learned since 2014, when the seed kind of started, in 2016 when you launched?
I think a common one is don't take no for an answer. When someone says you can't or you shouldn't, turn around and go in the other direction. We've learned to use that as fuel. It really is fuel for going forward. And we know that there are families like our own. We know they're out there. We know, based on our own experiences, that they may not be getting the support that they need to reach family prosperity. And so we're gonna say, thanks for, your advice or your input. And then we're going to turn around and go in the other direction and do what we know intuitively is the right thing.
I love that. Well, I think that that's a good one, because I think when we're in a position of running a business that relies on the kindness of others, no is a word that you hear kind of a lot. And you have to, it just comes with the territory where we're asking for donations, we're asking for resources, and there's a lot of no. And it'd be really easy just to say, okay. Oh, okay.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I shouldn't.
Right. But if we did that, this work would never happen. These lives would never be changed. The world would never be better. We have to keep persevering and keep going. And that is a beautiful lesson. So how do you think you've changed in all of this? How has this journey changed you?
Oh my gosh. It's funny you bring that up because I've always, I'm a teacher at heart. That's, what I was trained to do. And then went on to, pursue a master's degree in counseling and psychology. So I would say that I think I'm a pretty good listener. But this has taught me to listen more and talk less. It's taught me to really be more thoughtful about how I approach my own life, but how I think about the experiences of others. We have our own ideas and perspectives, but just because that's ours doesn't mean it's somebody else's. And somebody else's experience is just as valuable, if not more, than our own. And so listening, thinking, and letting that really, as far as the work goes, help our decision making. And so, and really being, as a sports mom, as a mom of a football player, 2 football players, I always use a sports analogy, but really focusing on how to build a championship team, bringing the right people on board, and having them. We all present with a different skill set. Someone might be good at one thing, complement areas that are some of my weaknesses. So really finding folks, building that team. That's something that's different for me, because as a single parent, so often I carried the burden completely on my own. Decision making all by myself, where my kids were going to school, what we were doing for dinner, all of those things I did alone. And so it was not really, within my experience for 29 years to say, I need to bring others, into this to really help us have a great impact. And so that's changed for me.
I think that's fantastic. And that is a sign of a true leader, is someone who recognizes the strengths and weaknesses of others and has the vision and can communicate the vision and build the team. That's what leadership is, Lori. And that is what you are. You are a leader. You are so incredible. You have all of the skills. I run a leadership organization as my day job, and we identify 4 characters of leadership, and you check every box, every last one. You are a true leader, and you cannot lead. Most important box that we teach all of our kids: you cannot lead unless you serve. You cannot lead unless you serve. So thank you for showing us all of that today. It's so great. Please tell us how we can support Raise the Bar, how we can support you, how we can help you with this work, this beautiful work, volunteer, donate, social media, all of it.
Absolutely. So we're, still in our growth phase. We're on a very steep trajectory, and we're bringing, folks on board as volunteers, always looking for donations to help us achieve our goals. To learn more, you can go to our website at raisethebar.org. That's with 2 R's. It's our last name. You could also follow us on social at Raise the Bar Fund. That name may be changing, but for now, that's where you can find us. And there we really elevate the stories and the experiences of our scholars. So you can really get to know, our scholars and their kids through those platforms. We have an annual fundraiser. And it's called Under Review, kind of a play on football words, looking at things more carefully. And so we have a fashion and football experience that takes place annually. You can see the photos and, the experiences on our website as well, but getting involved in that, looking for that coming down the pike in May of 2022. You can reach out to me if you're interested, in volunteering. We're looking for mentors because developing those networks and reducing the feelings of isolation are a big part of the work we do. So there's many ways to get involved, and you can learn more at our website or shoot me an email. I respond usually very quickly. I'm just happy, for folks to inquire and to share what we're doing, because that is a big part of increasing our impact, is raising that awareness and really building that championship team.
Well, you are raising the bar to a whole new level. And I have to say, I saw what Anthony did as a young boy for my son and how he mentored him and came back to high school to inspire other students. And I can see where he gets it now after talking to you. What an inspiration and a joy you are, Lori. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. You are just a gift, and we are so excited to have you here and so excited to support Raise the Bar. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Heidi. It was a pleasure to join you. I always love talking about this work, and I hope our paths cross again soon.
Oh, for sure they will. Of that, I'm sure. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Charity Matters podcast. I so enjoyed talking to our guest, Lori Barr, about what it takes to start a business that truly changes people's lives. I think Lori's comment about dreaming big and not becoming your own prisoner was beyond inspiring and true. To learn more about modern day heroes like Lori, or if you'd like to reach out to us, visit us at charity-matters.com or connect with us on Instagram at Charity Matters. If you enjoyed our conversation, we would love it if you shared this with your family and friends. And as always, feel free to leave a review and or subscribe on Apple Podcast. Remember that together we can make a difference, one small act of kindness at a time. See you next week.